Hello, everyone. My name's Hank Setala,
And I'm Sean Edward Phillips.
and we're here with Conversations with God discussion group.
Uh-oh. Well, good evening, everybody. Hank, your sound went bye-bye. I don't know what happened, but hello, everyone, and welcome to Conversations with God discussion group. um, how's everybody going tonight? On this lovely 7/7. What a fun day, July 7th. Waiting for Hank here to get his audio back on. So tonight, just we're going to be doing a relaxed discussion group, similar to our typical weekly format. For anyone who's been catching the last couple weeks, Hank and I have been doing more of a focus on Book 4 of the CwG series, Conversations with God, Book 4, Awaken the Species. So we've been doing that. Last month in June, we did that for a few weeks, and then we'll be doing our next kind of focus on chapters 11 through 15 of CwG Book 4 in 2 weeks. So I think that'll be the 21st of July. So look forward to that. Looks like Hank's going to rejoin us. So he's got the book, virtual book. So I think we'll just hang out and just see who all's
Am I back? Can you hear me?
online. Yes, we can hear you now, Hank.
Oh, great. 5911. Okay. Well, thank you for holding the fort there. Oh,
Oh,
that's
no
just
problem.
so weird. It had to be something with playing the intro audio because then everything went down.
That
So
seems like
welcome,
what it
everyone.
was.
Now that Sean said welcome, I'd like you to welcome you too. And thank you so much for just being with us while I go through these little technology hurdles. This is our general Conversations with God discussion group. Also, if you weren't aware, we're doing a Conversations with God Book 4 group.
I let them
That
know.
is the second. What's that?
I let them know.
Oh, you did already? Well, okay, he's a step ahead of me.
Hey,
So if you're watching and you'd like, I almost forgot I have to hit go live over here. So it's going out to a couple other pages now. But basically, this is intended to be an interactive dialogue, and you can make comments, ask questions. If you'd like to join us on air, make a comment, let us know. We can send you a link so you could actually be on screen with us and have a more of an interactive conversation. We could have up to 8 other people out with us. It would be pandemonium, but we could do it.
it's like
How does it get any better than that?
it's like 8. It's like 4 and 4.
Yeah, 10 if you include us, and then if you include the entities, it's like a lot more. But great. For those of you who don't know what the work is, years ago, Neale Donald Walsch wrote a book called Conversations with God, which I thought I had a hard copy of here to show you, but apparently I don't. But it is basically a dialogue back and forth. Neale asks a question, an answer comes through from God, and we have this cool ability to share on screen whatever we're going to be referencing. We will share it like so. Oh, it's not added, is it? No. Oh, I just have to do this, and then we can
Yes.
see it. Yep. So we can, when we're actually going through the book, we'll be able to pull it up. You can read along with us. We don't read it all the way through verbatim. We just kind of read little passages here and there and see where the conversation takes us. So where would you like to start? Or someone give us a random page number, and we can just kind of go and pick something random if anyone has a number they like us to focus on.
Ooh, the old random selector.
Unless there's a place in the conversation you'd like to start, we can we could definitely do that. Hello, Magic Mike.
Hey, Mike.
Yeah, Magic Mike joining us.
Thanks for joining.
Yeah, there he goes. And if you see me looking over here, it's because I have one screen here where I can actually see the book, and I have the camera over here because I couldn't get the audio to work on the computer. So I'm like multi tasking literally here. And Mike says 97.
I think it's 97
in unicorns. Well, was he doing like an axis number thing or?
Yeah.
Okay, 97. I
9,
thought it was
7,
5911. Okay.
Well, I think so. I think Mike was just picking numbers that he thought were fun. or needed to come
Well,
up.
we could
So
definitely do that.
we could do that.
Page
Or that was the
97.
page he was recommending. I guess we could do it that way. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I can't really tell from this one which is Neale and which is God here, but that's all right. Page 97. Maybe go back one page for context. Let's see. I believe this is God talking. Because you are no longer concerned with the acceptance or approval of the world, you are no longer satisfied with what that has brought you. You are no longer pleased with what it has given others. You want the pain to stop, the suffering to stop, the illusion to end. You have had enough of this world as it pretensely is. You seek a newer world. Seek it no longer, now call it forth.
Can you help me to better understand how to do that?
Yeah. Yes, first go to your highest thought about yourself. Imagine imagine the you that you would be if you lived that thought every day. Imagine what you would think, do, and say, and how you would respond to what others do and say. Do you see any difference between that projection and what you think, do, and say now?
Yes, I see a great deal of difference.
Good, you should. Since we know that right now you are not living your highest vision of yourself. Now, having seen the difference between where you are and where you want to be, begin to change. This is really timely, Magic Mike. This is a great number. Begin to change, consciously change your thoughts, words, and actions to match your greatest vision. This will require tremendous mental and physical effort. It will entail constant moment to moment monitoring of your every thought, word, and deed. It will involve continued choice making consciously. This whole process is a massive move to consciousness. What you will find out if you undertake this challenge is that you've spent half your life unconscious. That is to say, unaware on a conscious level of what you are choosing in the way of thoughts and deeds until you experience the aftermath of them. Then, when you experience these results, you deny that your thoughts, words, and deeds had anything to do with them. This is a call to stop unconscious living. It is a challenge to which your soul has called you from the beginning of time. Ooh, that's already pretty juicy right there.
That kind of continual mental monitoring seems as though it may be terribly exhausting.
It could be until it becomes second nature. In fact, it is your second nature. It is your first nature to be unconditionally loving. It is your second nature to choose to express your first nature, your true nature, consciously. Oop, sorry.
Excuse me, but wouldn't this kind of nonstop editing of everything I say and do make Jack a dull boy?
Oh, did I skip a page? Nope, I didn't. Never different. Yes. Dull? No. Was Jesus dull? I don't think so. Was Buddha boring to be around? People flocked and begged to be in his presence. No one who had attained mastery is dull. Unusual, perhaps, extraordinary, perhaps, but never dull. So, do you want your life to take off? Begin at once to imagine it the way you want it to be and move into that. Check every thought, word, and action that does not fall into harmony with that. Move away from those. When you have a thought that is not in alignment with your higher vision, change to a new thought, then and there. When you say a thing that is out of alignment with your greatest idea, make a note not to say something like that again. When you do a thing that is misaligned with your best intention, decide to make that the last time and make it right with whomever was involved if you can.
It seemed pretty good.
Yeah. And I just remembered I gotta make my one post public real quick. But that's really timely for the time because this is kind of paralleling what we've been talking about in the book four discussion groups about humanity kind of moving into this more highly evolved state, if you will. And this is all way back in book one where it all started. There's elements of that book four book right here.
Hmm.
All right.
Yeah, I like where they ended. I think on the page before this. Um,
Yep, I'll skip over to that. Go to the one page before.
yeah. Particularly right at the end, excuse me, but when this, that kind of continual mental monitoring, just one paragraph up.
Must be right here.
Yeah. So,
It kind of reminds me of driving a car. Like at first, how you have to focus on everything, and you might be really stressed out. And by the time you're through your driver's education and you're ready to get your license, it's like second nature just driving. And I kind of feel that it parallels that. It might seem like a lot of work at first, but once you do it enough, it's just the way, and it's not something you even have to focus on.
yeah. Yeah, I related a lot of this section to how Access Consciousness puts it with kind of being the energy that you'd like your life to look like. It's very much the same idea where you kind of want to be in this energy and presence of the life you'd like to be living, and then that's what you end up generating because you start with that energy, so it has to show up because you
What
already
did I
are it.
do? Sorry about that. No, I was trying to the audio thing on this new laptop. I'm not sure where it was, but obviously it wasn't the button I pressed because it did all kinds of weird stuff.
Yeah,
So I will use
some
this
hack
instead.
must have picked that one out.
Yeah, I don't know who that was. It's
Don't
no, those
know.
things are in different places than the laptop I'm used to. So yeah. Yeah, but and when it was talking about whatever your greatest truth is or your greatest version of yourself is, to not do things that aren't in alignment with that, and it kind of parallels to Gary Douglas in Access. He asked the question, "What would he like his life to look like?"
Mm-hmm.
And when he looked like at the life being happy, joyous, and free, or whatever his words were to describe it, he started to only choose things that matched the vibration of that which he was looking to bring into his reality. And what if it's that easy? Like you don't have to worry about all the places from A to Z to get there. All you have to do is worry about A to B. You know what the Z is. Like I'm going to choose to have happiness and joy in my life, or whatever context you want to give it, and then you just start choosing the next thing that matches that frequency, and before you know it, you've actualized more than you've ever imagined.
Mm-hmm.
Could it be that easy?
Couldn't it be
I
that
think it
easy?
can.
Yeah. So what is it for you? Well, for you, Hank, and then you, anybody listening, now or in the future, what's that energy for you? What's that vision of your life that you'd like to be living? And would you give yourself a chance to try living that life, as ridiculous and crazy and as much doubt as you may have that it may be possible? Would you be willing to give it a try for a day, for a week?
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Very good. We got some unicorns for Mike. Thank you, Magic Mike.
Unicorn.
And I see if you're just joining us, if you have any questions, please put down your questions and comments, or just if you have a comment, if there's something you'd like to contribute, that would be great too. So, was there anything else from here that we wanted to touch on? There was like a really, yeah, seek it no longer, now call it forth. So that's, you just used the word try when you were talking about that. And somebody in a class that I'm teaching as an online stream, they gave me a great way to illustrate that. With their clients, they'll hold out their finger like this. Oh, I have to make sure I'm in screen. Okay, we'll do it this way. And she'll be like, okay, try to grab my finger. And they do that. She's like, no, you didn't try. You grabbed my finger. Try to grab my finger. If you try, you never get there. So
Mm-hmm.
instead of seeking it, it's like you're trying to find something. You're trying to find something. Start choosing. You're calling it forth. You're declaring your will into the universe.
Yeah, 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 I did pick the word try to use there. That was a conscious choice. You
Did
are
you?
more, yeah, you're more accurate, Hank, in that you don't really. Well, I think it's more in line with the language of conversations with God, but in actuality, the word try, it's very much Yoda speak. Try or do not. There is no try. So at the end of it, if you're gonna choose to live the life, or what do they put it, the greatest version of you, as they put it in
Yeah.
CwG here, either you do it or you don't. So would you be willing to start doing it?
And start being it.
And start
Beingness
being it.
precedes doingness. Yeah. Which is where Access gives us a great tool, but we'll be talking more about Access things next week on Power
Next week.
Possibilities. But asking instead of asking what can I do, ask the question what could I be right now to bring these things into my reality. And my summary of the entire works of Neale Donald Walsch is source is all there is, all at once in the ever-present moment of now. All you have to do is choose who you're going to be. Like that's the first thing. You choose who you're going to be in creationship to your perceived reality, and then the universe brings you opportunities to express that being through doing. But it all starts with being. And if you're looking to be that inspiration, that unlimited potential of being able to create whatever you would desire in your life and having the freedom of it just showing up, uh, that's the energy that you start being, and then the universe gives you all kinds of ways to experience that. You all right, Sean?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
just adjusting.
What's adjusting?
Oh, I just changed how I was in the chair.
Oh, I heard some weird thing. That's why I was like, I
Oh, that
didn't
was
know
my
what that
chair.
was.
Yeah, it wasn't me
Was it?
yeah, it wasn't
I
me
thought it was
like
like a big
kicking the
sigh.
bucket or something. Like
Now, Mike, I believe he's skimming us 17. I assume that's the next page he wants us to go to. So we can either that or it's a weird random Mike thing.
yeah, it's like page 1.
It might be. It is page 1. So I can summarize uh, this a little bit. What was happening? So Neil had a physical injury, so he was like in a neck brace. He had his wife was divorcing him, so he was going to be losing his wife. He ended up stealing from his own garage like a tent, so he would have some place to stay, and end up at like they call it like a homeless camp where you would have to pay every week in order to have a place to set your tent up. And so he would like collect bottles and cans and all kinds of stuff just to make the rent. He got food out of dumpsters. If you ever want to get a real good snapshot of his life, there's actually a movie called Conversations with God that kind of encapsulates it well. And
CwG, the
the
movie.
movie, I think there's a musical
Now a
too.
motion picture.
Yeah, but he finally got a part-time job, and he was working as like a disc jockey on the radio, and he finally got enough money to get an apartment and get out of the homeless camp. And he goes to work one day, the door is locked, it's boarded up, and there's a sign that they have gone out of business, they're bankrupt. And then he goes home, and he basically writes a scathing letter to God that's like it was a spiteful, passionate letter full of confessions, contortions, and condemnations, a pile of angry questions. Why wasn't my life working? What would it take to get it to work? Why can I not find happiness in relationships? Was the experience of adequate money going to elude me forever? What had I done to deserve such a continuing struggle in his life? And as he went and wrote all that, he heard on the next page, do you really want an answer to all these questions, or are you just venting? And that's where the dialogue started. He really just started asking these questions, and an answer came, and that's where it all began.
Wouldn't it
Back
be
on
nice
page
to be sure
17.
as heaven?
Mhm. You are sure as hell, or you are sure as hell about a lot of things, but wouldn't it be nice to be as sure as heaven? And Neil wrote, or I wrote, what is that supposed to mean? Before I knew it, I had begun a conversation, and I was not writing so much as taking dictation. And the dictation went on for 3 years, and at the time I had no idea where it was going. The answers to the questions I was putting on paper never came to me until the question was completely written and I'd put my own thoughts away. Often the answers came faster than I could write, and I found myself scribbling to keep up. Just skipping a little bit. These conversations are still going on as I write this. And I want to get into the dialogue as soon as you can, because what's really important here is not my story, but yours. It is your life story which brought you here. It is your personal experience to which this material has relevance. Otherwise, you would not be here with it right now. So let us enter the dialogue with a question. And I begin for I've been asking for a very long time. How does God talk to whom? And when I ask this question, here is the answer I see. I guess you're playing God today, or for this one.
I talk to everyone all the time. The question is not to whom do I talk, but who listens.
Intrigued, I asked God to expand on the subject, and here's what God said.
First, let's exchange the word talk with the word communicate. It's a much better word, a much fuller, more accurate one. When we try to speak to each other, me to you, you to me, we are immediately constricted by the unbelievable limitation of words. For this reason, I do not communicate by words alone. In fact, rarely do I do so. My most common form of communication is through feeling. Feeling is the language of the soul. If you want to know what's true for you about something, look at how you're feeling about it. Feelings are sometimes difficult to discover, and often even more difficult to acknowledge. Yet hidden in your deepest feelings is your highest truth. The trick is to get to those feelings. I will show you how, again, if you wish.
I told God I did wish, but that right now I wished even more for a complete and full answer to my first question. And here's what God said.
I also communicate with thought. Thought and feelings are not the same, although they can occur at the same time. In communicating with thought, I often use images and pictures. For this reason, thoughts are more effective than mere words as tools of communication. In addition to feelings and thoughts, I also use the vehicle of experience as a grand communicator. And finally, when feelings and thoughts and experience all fail, I use words. Words are really the least effective communicator. They are most open to misinterpretation, most often misunderstood. And
That's still you.
God just keeps going here explaining words. Okay.
Yeah.
I think we're good because we can probably speak to words being essentially inadequate, or as God points out, the least, I'm going to say, desirable form of communication. You know, your energy, your feelings, your thoughts speak much, and experiences speak much more to you than words possibly can. I think that's the gist.
Yeah, and one of the he doesn't put it in the book, but I've heard him say in workshops that like language is the feeble attempt to put words of the isness to the allness, or something like that, where you're
Yeah.
trying to take this huge concept and break it down into these little words. And at the end of the day, words are when I read the words that Sean writes or what Sean says, I'm looking at all those through my filters and my all my past experiences. I'm looking at it with all these different lenses, and what I get out of them could be completely different. And we're assuming that we're using the same words to mean the same things, and it could be something different to Sean. And what think about how many religions we have. Like all the same inspirations might have come through, going through the filters of different cultures and different areas, and different religions bring forth of it, but they all at the root of it have some very underlining, like the same principles. So the information, the content was the same, but through the different filters we have all these different religions. And that's just one of the examples of where words kind of don't work the best.
Yeah. And there is the phrase that God puts here. Now, the supreme irony here is that you have all placed so much importance on the word of God and so little on the experience. In
It's true.
fact,
The
you place
kingdom of
so
heaven lies
little
within.
value on experience that when what you experience of God differs from what you've heard of God, you automatically discard the experience and own the words when it should be just the other way around. Now
Indeed.
that's a cool. Now that's a cool passage.
And where I like we haven't got quite to it yet, but when he starts talking about this, that you have your thoughts, and if God is communicating with you through thoughts, how do you know what's what? He says, mine is always your highest truth, your clearest word, your grandest feeling, Anything less is from another source, because we oftentimes on other calls like, well, how do you know what is,
Mhm.
your divine inspiration versus something from ego or something from an entity? And we talked about it a little bit in the before discussions, the vibration of something that you can feel, that is this, the highest and best, or is this something else? And getting in touch with that is sometimes just takes a little practice to get used to it. But we all have the ability to tap in and have that knowing of what is the grandest feeling, or what is the highest vibration about something is.
Yeah, and you kind of highlighted there where it's like a feeling that you have, or a sensation and experience you have, where you just know that that's the highest truth for you. And
Yeah.
as we kind of allude to in in this little chat we're having, we can't put words to it to describe it all that well, other than it's an experience that you have, and that's kind of how you know. Um, have you had experiences with being in your highest thought, Hank?
Well, I have, but it's hard to talk about it because it's beyond words. No, but those thoughts and feelings, it's the space where you get something and you know that you know that you know it, like resonates through you, through top to bottom. And you might have that knowing, and then all of a sudden, that divine inspiration, that impulse of the soul, as we talk about in book 4, starts to get tripped up because we start thinking, and the ego gets involved and be like, well, is that really my thought, or am I just, fantasizing about something and it's not really possible, or it's too hard? And we start to talk ourselves out of that inspiration. But that's where, from the passage we read back on page 97, you start, once you get one of those, you start only choosing what's going to bring that into your life. You start to consciously live your life and be congruent with everything, to start actualizing and manifesting this highest thought and this clearest feeling and this greatest vision that you've ever had about who you can be. And if it doesn't match those things, you don't choose it. Or if you accidentally slip up, you don't give yourself a hard time and just choose that that's the last time I'm choosing that. I'm going to choose things that are going to bring me closer instead of farther away.
Yeah,
Easier said than done, right? Unless it's not.
unless it's not. I think
Yeah.
it's a good minute to maybe pause and just ask if anybody has any comments about what we've kind of talked about here, any contributions, thoughts, experiences. Is this new to anybody? Is this something you've experienced in your life? Maybe just take a second to get some
Sure.
feedback.
Or we put people to sleep and they're snoozing.
Yeah, we could
And
do that. I mean, we could do some, I think we could get some, do one of
look
those.
into my eyes. I don't need consciousness. I'm quoting a movie, actually. Do you know the movie?
Look into my eyes. I don't need consciousness.
Well, the actual quote is, "Look into my eyes. I don't need therapy." No, from Goodwill Hunting, when he's being trying to be hypnotized by one of the therapists. No, okay, you
Oh,
probably haven't
is
seen it
that
then.
in Good Will Hunting? Man, I really enjoyed the movie, but it's been a while since I've seen it, and I do not recall that scene.
Oh, Michael's out of delivery, so I think that's why he's not typing right now. Actually, I wonder if has this come up? Oh, this is awesome. StreamYard just released the ability to have this on mobile devices. You couldn't even bring it up as a host on iPads before, or on a phone. So this is really cool that I can do it now. Awesome. Little problem typing, maybe, but get a Bluetooth keyboard, no problem, right?
See, it was just a technical problem asked as a technical opportunity to learn about StreamYard.
Yep, 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 yep. And if you're feeling really brave out there and you want to actually have an interactive dialogue with us, make a comment. We can send you a link to join us on screen. Now, Magic Mike, if you want to do that, you got to promise to talk in complete sentences so we can understand what you're saying. Just saying. Because Mike sometimes he has like multiple thought streams going at the same time. So we got to pull one question out from one in totality before moving into another. But it doesn't look
Yeah,
like we got any questions so far.
that's okay.
It is okay. Let's see. Do you have, or should we just keep going with this little section?
Um,
Oh, actually, here's a good little part to, even if we aren't going to go further, just to wrap it all up. The grandest feeling is the feeling which you call love. Joy, truth, love. These three are interchangeable, and one always leads to the other. It matters not in which order they are placed.
heart.
Having heart, oh, heart. Having with these guidelines determined which messages are mine and which have come from another source, the only question remaining is whether my message will be heeded. And that's the thing, like later on in this chapter, uh, Neil says, well, why don't you talk to everyone? You're talking to me. Why don't you talk to everyone? And God replies that, well, it's not a question of who I talk to. I talk to everyone. It's not who I speak with, but it's about who listens and then who actually um, brings the information through or takes action on the inspiration. Later
Mm-hmm.
on, I forget in this book or the next book, God says, "I'm giving the same inspiration to a whole bunch of people on the planet in this moment, and not everybody's actually writing it down and doing something with it." And so,
Yeah.
where are we aware of these things that we are just turning a blind eye to for whatever reason? That if we were to just shift a little bit to receive it, we could change a whole bunch of things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I call
Hmm.
that phenomenon in the world that I live in, which is my world, of course, and different from anyone else's. It's just the power of being present. When you're present, you can really feel, and you're kind of just in that energy where it's not always words that come to you, but just when you have that presence where you're just hanging out, maybe doing something mundane like the dishes, and you're just totally present with what's going on. Just being in that space often, and this is my personal experience, that is as much the communion that they're referencing here in the communication God's talking about, where you're present with what's happening so you can actually listen. And it's really cool. Um, I've had a lot of fun doing it more the last couple months. Something interesting. So we do have a
Got a
comment
comment here,
to
Sean.
catch up. So uh,
So, all right, Sean, give a 30-second summary of
30
everything we're
second
talking about.
summary. Okay, we went to
Yeah, 1 second per
page
minute that we streamed.
we went to page 97 and we talked about some stuff and God. And then we
Well,
went to page 17, which
chapter
is
97 was about starting to actually choose in congruency with the inspiration to be the best you can be, and to start choosing and aligning everything that you do to actualize the highest vibration that you can be in this world. That's my summary of how I would summarize
yeah,
97. And then we just went to page 17, which where Neale Donald Walsch, where the books really started. It
chapter
started to
1
talk
of
about
book
how
1.
he wrote a scathing letter to God, and God started having this dialogue, and really getting to the awareness that God communicates with us all the time through feelings, through thoughts, rarely through words because they're the least effective. And then it becomes the art of differentiating what is from divinity and what isn't. And that is where it's like, this is the highest thought, this is the clearest feeling, this is the grandest vibration. Well, the good thing is, I know you say, "Oh man, it sounds great. You missed it." This is all on YouTube. So if you follow the link to YouTube, or if you just wait on Facebook after the stream is done, you can go back and watch. So you can start a watch party, invite your friends, and have the whole experience
Make
from the
some
beginning. So
popcorn, maybe put some cookies in the
yeah,
oven, have a good old time.
just don't do what I did once. I accidentally had like, well, I wasn't trying to do it. I had put bad habit, put groceries on the oven, and I went to start pasta for the boys, and I turned the wrong burner on, and it just so happened that the burner that the groceries are on, um, it melted through the bag, and there was a thing of popcorn from Trader Joe's. And by the time I just went down to ask them what kind of pasta they wanted, and by the time I came back, it was already a smoke like filled in the kitchen, and there was like literally popcorn just popping off the oven and like flying through the air. It was great fun. So yeah, popcorn, but don't make it my way.
Yeah, that sounds like an adventure.
It was. Hmm. So what page do we go to now? Hazel, is there a random page you'd like to give us? Like, I think between like page, we could go anywhere from 80 to 500 or so. I think even more than 500.
I think it's like
Uh,
17 to like 700 something.
Something like that. If there's a random page number or magic
Not
Mike,
that
if
I
you want
would
to give another one.
know.
I had the digital book, but I don't have the paper one to throw up there.
Yeah, because I think
Let me see.
the digital one says 744, and that's
Oh, there we go. It is right there. It's right in front of me. Hmm.
yeah. But the last however many pages are like end of the book, not really a book. Well, I'm feeling page 417. So
Page 417. Ooh, not even close. Ooh, very close. Almost. So almost there. There we go. No. Does page 417 not exist? 418, hit back. 416. Sean, you have picked a page that doesn't exist.
I picked a page that doesn't exist. How's it getting better? They just throw it right out the book. Digital book.
Oh my god. I mean, how could you miss a page in a digital book? Oh, do I have my? Now I have to know like what's on that page. Oh, like what are the chances of that, Sean? Do I have it over there? Oh, I
When
do
I'm
have it.
around,
All
it
right,
always
I'll
seems
be
like
back.
that stuff is a pretty good chance.
Unbelievable.
So I think Hank is going to go locate his physical copy of the book and find out what is on this page that is apparently not in the digital copy.
That is just bizarre, you know. Page 415. No, oh wait, you said 416, 417, right?
Mm-hmm.
So 416 is literally a blank page in the book, and so they just omitted it. So I think we were fine. Like 417 is where I don't know, but it doesn't look like we're actually missing a page. Join you.
I really thought we were missing a page. Dang it.
No, no, but that is pretty cool. Still, nonetheless. So anyway, on page 417, how then? This is talking about educating our young. So this is probably a great
Okay, so
topic too.
we've got like page 416 over here, and then there's like a invisible blank page 417, and then page 418.
Pretty much.
Okay.
But it says, let's see, young people,
Young
your
people.
young people have joined in your behaviors. If they are violent, it's because you are violent. If they are materialistic, it's because you are materialistic. This is basically saying how our children are emulating the behavior of adults. If they are acting crazy, it is because you are acting crazy. This explains so much about kids. Oh my God. If they are using sex manipulatively, irresponsibly, shamefully, it is because they see you doing the same. The only difference between young people and older people is that young people do what they do out in the open. Older people hide their behaviors. Older people think that younger people cannot see. Yet young people see everything. Nothing is hidden from them. They see the hypocrisy of their elders and they try desperately to change it, yet have tried and failed. They see no choice but to imitate it. In this way, they are wrong, yet they have never been taught differently. They have not been allowed to critically analyze what their elders have been doing. They've only been allowed to
Mm.
memorize it. What you memorize, you memorialize. How then should we educate our young? First, treat them as spirits. They are spirits entering a physical body. That is not an easy thing for a spirit to do, not an easy thing for a spirit to get used to. It is very confining, very limiting. So the child will cry out at suddenly being so limited. Hear this cry, understand it, and give your child as much of a sense of unlimitedness as you possibly can. Next, introduce them to the world that you have created with gentleness and care. Be full of care. That is to be, say, be careful of what you put into their memory storage units. Children remember everything they see. everything they experience. Why do you spank your children in the moment they exit the womb? Do you really imagine this is the only way to get their engines going? Why do you take your babies away from their mothers minutes after they have been separated from the only life form they have ever known in all their present existence? Will not the measuring and the weighing and the prodding and the poking wait for just a moment while the newborn, I can't read this part. Wait a moment while the newly born experience the safety and comfort of which they have has given it life. Why do you always why do you allow some of the earliest images to which your child is exposed to be images of violence? Who told you this was good for children, and why do you hide images of love? Why do you teach your children to be ashamed and embarrassed of their own bodies and their functions by shielding your own bodies from them and telling them not to ever touch themselves in ways which pleasure them? What message do you send about pleasure, and what lessons about the body? Why do you place your children in schools where competition is allowed and encouraged, where being the best and learning the most is rewarded, where performance is graded, and moving at one's own pace is barely tolerated? What does your child understand from this? Why do you not teach your children of movement and music and the joy of art and mystery of fairy tales and the wonder of life? Why do you not bring out what is naturally found in the child rather than seek to put it what is unnatural to the child? And why do you not allow your young ones to learn logic and critical thinking and problem solving and creation using the tools of their own intuition and their deepest inner knowing rather than the rules and the memorized systems and conclusions of a society which has already proven itself to be wholly unable to evolve by these methods and yet continues to use them? Finally, teach concepts, not subjects. Devise a new curriculum and build it around three core concepts: awareness, honesty, responsibility. Teach your children these concepts from the early stage. Have them run through the curriculum until the final day. Base your entire educational model upon them. Birth all instruction deep within them.
I don't understand what that would mean. It means,
Uh,
oh, that's yours.
it means everything you teach would come from within these concepts.
Can you explain that? How would we teach them the three R's?
From the earliest primers to your most sophisticated readers, all tales, stories, and subject matter would revolve around the core concepts. That is, they would be stories of awareness, stories dealing with honesty, stories about responsibility. Your children would be introduced to the concepts, injected into the concepts, immersed in the concepts. Writing tasks likewise would I can't talk tonight. Writing tasks likewise would revolve around these core concepts and others which are attendant to them as a child grows in the ability to self-express. Even computation skills would be taught within this framework. Arithmetic and mathematics are not abstractions, but are the most basic tool in the universe for living life. The teaching of all computation skills would be contextualized within the larger life experience in a way which draws attention to and places focus on the core concepts and the derivatives.
What are these derivatives?
To use a phrase your media people have made popular, they are spin offs of the entire educational model. The entire educational model can be placed into these spin offs, replacing the subjects into your present curriculum, which teach basically facts.
For instance,
Well, let's use your imagination. What are some of the concepts which are important in your life?
well, I would say honesty, as you have said,
Yes, go ahead. That's a core concept.
and fairness. That's an important concept to me.
Good. Any others?
Treating others nicely. That's one. I don't know how to put that into a concept.
Go on. Just let the thoughts flow.
Getting along, being tolerant, not hurting others, seeing others as equal. Those are all things I would hope I could teach my children.
Good. Excellent. Keep going.
Believing in yourself. That's a good one. And wait, there's one coming. Yeah, that's it. Walking in dignity. I guess I would call it walking in dignity. I don't know how to put that into a better concept either, but it has to do with the way one carries oneself in one's life. and the way one honors others and the path others are taking.
This is good stuff. This is all good stuff. You're getting down to it now. There are many other such concepts which all children must deeply understand if they are to evolve and grow into complete human beings. Yet you do not teach these things in your schools. These are the most important things in life, these things we are talking of, but you do not teach them in school. You do not teach what it means to be honest. You do not teach what it means to be responsible. You do not teach what it means to be aware of other people's feelings and respectful of other people's paths. I think that's a really important one, to be respectful of other people's paths. You say it is up to the parents to teach these things, yet parents can only pass on what has been passed on to them, and the sins of the father will have been visited upon the son. So you're teaching in your homes the same stuff your parents taught you in their homes.
Oh my goodness. Well, do we want to keep going, or do we think that's pretty good?
Have we fried everybody enough with that? No.
And that was a pretty long
this
passage.
was written back in like 97. I'm just thinking about like the school system where Max and Oliver go. They have like totally awesome Tuesdays, and they have like the principles of the school, and it's talking about being honest, being respectful, and they have mindfulness class. They had like yoga and meditation. So I wonder if, since this was written, there has been some incorporation to some of these things into the schools.
Well, that's
but
pretty
for the
cool.
most part, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like I don't know, but it's so inconsistent between school systems. Like we're fortunate where we live. Like they had online schooling with the whole shutdown, but there were other school districts that just didn't have the infrastructure, and they weren't able to just shift like some school systems. So there's a lot of inequality with the way that the education system works, because if you aren't living in a really good neighborhood, quote unquote, then you might not have the same infrastructure in the schools that could get that are in a position to teach some of these things that other ones.
Mm-hmm.
I know, just but there has been some progress, I do believe, since this started.
Yeah. Well, the awareness I have is that's probably true, at least to some degree, because I don't remember having those types of classes when I was in elementary school or anything. Maybe we did. I just know that's more recent for me than for you.
What's that supposed to mean, Sean?
Means man. You were, embodied on the planet a few solar years before myself.
Well, that's a very polite way of saying I'm older than you.
Means you're an old fart.
my body's older than you, but my soul, I'm still.
Oh, who knows? Soul. Oh. Who would know?
That's a lot in there.
Yeah, pretty good. Pretty good stuff. I mean, boy, is it true that that this stuff had not been taught in school, though, at least from my experience and the awareness I get with just how education is in our part of the world, in America, the USA. Those are definitely some things that we could probably do to incorporate more. Especially the part about competition, in school is definitely a big thing. Competitive about grades and achievement, and just the and what's that part about, it's not like encouraged at all to move at your own pace. Like, it's always get through the next lecture, the next chapter, the next thing, and it's like, how much does that really work? How much does that really work for the individual student, who may desire to spend longer or shorter or not at all on particular topics?
Well, the question is, was it even designed with the individual student in mind, or is it the mindset of corporate efficiency? And I don't know if I mentioned this on our stream before, but Param, who's a professor at Baldwin Wallace, he'll say that the definition of like corporate efficiency is, how do I get the most out of something and put the least into it? How do I get the most out of this person and put the least amount in? Mm-hmm. And if you have this mindset of achievement and this is what you need to do, that's kind of going along with how we're expected to operate in the corporate world.
Mm-hmm.
Just food for thought.
And I'm sure there's many people that can speak more to education systems than myself. I know the American school system had been modeled for like factory work, which is more of that corporate style that you're talking about, Hank. Raise your hand, go to the bathroom. Kind of like assembly line, kind of like factory work. And obviously, our economy has shifted, and there's still that work, but not like it was in the 30s and the 40s, and our school system was being implemented. So how much could change? What would it take to change it to be more like this? And what has changed? Let's acknowledge, where have some things changed, and where can we still do more?
Just looking at Germany, because I'm a little bit familiar with their school system. My wife is from Germany. A couple of unique things when she was growing up, like all through like elementary school up until she got to high school, you were with the same group of students. Like right now, they switch every year. You always have like new people, which I guess there's plus and minuses either way. But she formed like these amazing, long-lasting friendships with these people that she was friends with. They were all in the same class for so many years and that type of thing. And then as you got into high school, and depending on where your strengths were, there were like three different paths that you could take. There'd be one where you just take 2 years of high school and then you go into a trade. Like her brother is a plumber. He didn't need to go through all this extra college and stuff like that. He went through 2 years of high school, and then ended up starting his apprenticeship, basically to be a plumber. And other people doing things for photography or for different retail sectors, all just like trade services. And then depending on other things, you might go for college for for a few more years, or go to college or go to the master's program, because all the education is paid for. But they would look at each individual, and based on their strengths and how they operated, you would have different uh, educational paths that would suit where your strengths were, if that makes sense. So you weren't necessarily expected to do the whole high school thing, the whole college thing, and then doctorate program. It's like, well, what's really your
Yeah,
strengths in life,
what's
or
working for
yeah.
you, and let's plan and prepare you for that.
The best thing is there's no judgment around it. It's not like if you go into a trade service, like there, people are saying, "Well, you weren't good enough to go to college." There's not as far as I know anyway, there's not like a view that one path is more than another. But it feels very much here that if you don't go to college, there's a lot of judgment around not going to college, or not
Yeah.
doing, not graduating high school and stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, definitely well, you and I are from the same area, Hank. Well, at least you're living in the same area as I am now, and I went to the school system that you're familiar with. So, and there was definitely a lot of pressure to go to high school, and there definitely was a sense or go to high school. Well, yes, go to high school. That was like like, that was a no-brainer. But then to go to college, there's definitely a lot of pressure to go to college. And if that, you know, if you weren't cut for college, and yeah, there was this kind of thing like there's something wrong with that person, that they're not going to go to college. And now that you kind of look at it, the way the Germans are doing it, or just in general, it's like, well, does this really make sense that everyone would need to go and get a 4-year diploma versus something like trade school, 2 years college, trade school, or however they work it, isn't that a lot more respectful of other people's paths?
Yeah. Yeah. And just letting people be where they're at and not forcing them to go into a system. And like my wife, she would hate like the multiple choice tests. They didn't have those in Germany. Like multiple choice, it's like a whole different mindset of how to take tests and everything. So I know there's a lot more stress, because she was an exchange student. She was here for my senior year of high school. That's how we met. And just like the whole way that our school worked versus over there was way more tension with how everything was presented and what was expected here versus there. And their education system sometimes seems a little bit more robust. How many times are we hired from outside of the country for skilled labor services, or people with certain skill sets and technology? So I don't know. Fun stuff. No, that was fun. Oh, we have met the enemy, and they is us. I don't know. This is just popping out at me. I don't know why. Just looks like an interesting quote. So maybe we should read a little bit for that. Come on, light. Boom.
We have.
So he keeps bringing back. This is, I believe, he's going into how he's saying like because we are basically teaching by example to our children all these bad things. Um, and they're saying it's not a question of blame, it's a question of choice. And if you are not responsible for the choices humankind has been making, that keeps making who is. Well, we can't make ourselves responsible for all of it, Neale says. I'm sorry, I should have let Sean read that. I tell you this, until you are willing to take responsibility for all of it, you cannot change any of it. I'm going to read that one again. Until you are willing to take responsibility for all of it, you cannot change any of it. You cannot keep saying they did it and they're doing it, and only if they would get it right. Remember the wonder line from Walt Kelly's comic strip character, Pogo, and never forget it. We have met the enemy, and they is us.
Hmm. Yeah, I was kind of skimming ahead there.
Was it?
Yeah, I was just skimming ahead, where they would start to talk, continue to talk more. And I think to this passage, it is a question of choice, and something that I've had to come into awareness on, or ask questions like Neale does to get awareness on, and like, you know, how do you put it? It's like, the way they kind of put it here is like, if you're not responsible, then who is? And I think that, correct me if I'm wrong, King, I think that's speaking more to a collective sense of you, not you, the
In a
individual
way,
per
both.
se. In a way,
I
both.
remember,
But go ahead.
yeah, there was in the Baltimore workshop I was at with Neale. I'm gonna try to remember it exactly, but somebody was sharing like a real story. Like he asked someone to share something personal that they didn't mind sharing, of course. And they went through this whole thing about how somebody had committed suicide in their life and how they were really down over it. And then he looked at the rest of the people in the room and looked at everybody and said, "Now, what did you all create that?" And it's like saying that we all have a hand in the creation of everything.
Hmm.
And the idea being that even though we're an individual, if you look at the entire world, I'm the common denominator in all of it, because in truth, I'm the only one in the room, and so are you. If you take responsibility for it, you're operating from the place of oneness instead of relationship and duality, where you're saying that's not my fault, somebody else did it. And when you start to take a responsibility and accountability in a sense for everything, even if you didn't have a conscious direct contribution towards it, it gives you the power to now, since you're being an allowance of that and owning that, to be in a place and position to change it way more effectively and efficiently, because now you're owning it instead of not owning it. And one is like a oneality thing, and one is a duality thing. Does that make sense?
Hmm. Yeah. No, glad you threw that in there. I was going to segue that to, I was pulling it towards, we've talked about it in book 4 of the series, somewhere between chapters 1 and 10. um, the idea that you sort of start with you, and it's sort
Oh,
of a
yeah.
self-responsibility thing where you kind of have these circles of, like, how things go. It's like you have you, then you have your family, then you have your town, and then it just kind of gets bigger and bigger. And you can start with you, and you can change you and how you're doing, and making choices that are, more conscious or more towards the higher truth. And then that has a larger, it starts to ripple. It's kind of like this ripple effect out. So in a sense that, to me, when I'm just gonna say, to me, when we're talking about responsibility here, it's you first taking responsibility for your own conscious thought and awareness, and then as you choose that, to pull towards the choice, make that choice, that starts to extend to, what becomes eventually the, humankind or mankind. um and I think that relates to sometimes, this idea that, like, if you have an awareness, or you're listening to the conversations, like, now all of a sudden you have this, like, almost burden of, like, now I have to go make everybody conscious because I have awareness. And I think Neale asks a lot about that, and maybe it's all from book 4 that I'm recalling recently, and like this
Yep.
idea of, like, it's not like you're conscious and now you have to go change the planet. It's like almost by being consciousness, you can inspire it in others, and it's not like this hardship that happens. It just is, so to
Right.
say.
It's not something you have to work at.
Yeah, yeah. That was sort of my the energy that I got from that passage, and like, okay, well, that sounds like it's pretty heavy, and I don't know if I really want to be the guy. Like, okay, go make everybody conscious. It's like, yeah, kind of having read a little bit more of Neale's work and seeing some of the questions he's asked and the responses. I just wanted to kind of throw that into this conversation tonight.
No, that definitely is great because when you are taking it, looking at this, if you're taking responsibility for all of it, it's not necessarily saying that, oh my gosh, I'm responsible for that. I got to go save all the starving children over in a different country or whatnot. But if you are looking at, I have had a role consciously or unconsciously in the creation of what's happening on the planet right now. And now what could I choose to create? And what could I be? And what choices could I make to create the world that I would like to live in with my fellow creatures on this planet?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
that way you're still pulling it in, but you're not trying to change the whole planet overnight. You can start with what could I choose in my immediate reality that's going to start to be a contribution and start to have this
Yeah.
multiplier effect.
And depending on where you are, like we say, you start where you start. Maybe where you're at, you can go, and the thing to do is help a bunch of starving children, or contribute to schools, or have a larger role.
And
Just
if not, you
depending
can
on where you're
contribute just
at.
by sharing this video. That's a contribution because you're helping to spread consciousness.
I'm
You know,
spreading.
so
I'm
you have
spreading
the
the
power.
contagion of consciousness.
I love that. I love that from Access, the contagion of consciousness. Because
Oh,
once you're, it's kind of like the movie The Matrix. Like the guy gets out and he's like, the ignorance is bliss. Once you know, like you can't just go back in. Like once
yeah.
you're awake,
Cypher drops
you're
that
you're
line.
there.
Ignorance is
Yeah,
bliss. He's
yeah.
having a synthetic steak, and he's with one of the agents, and he's like, I know this steak has been programmed to be juicy and moist, and I just want to know one thing: his ignorance is bliss, because he's like still enjoying it, even though he knows it's like not real. It's like I'm not sure
No,
where that
it's
was
kind of like
going.
no, but that's in the grand scheme of things, this entire contextual field exists as an illusion. There's a whole book from Conversations with God called Communion with God, where it talks about the 10 illusions. And all the illusions are there primarily for one purpose, so that we can come in and have a experience where we don't recognize who we really are, and we can have this experience of emergence. And Neil has the quote, in the absence of that which you are not, that which you are is not. And as a divine being, if in fact you are everything and experience everything all at the same time, this illusion is allowing you to have the experiences and to declare through experience who you choose to be. So use the illusion as it's
Yeah.
intended, as a tool for expression of beingness.
I really recall that phrase from one of the books is to experience who you truly are.
Yeah.
In book 4, and it's on this one song that I really like. They have a cut of it. I'll have to find it. I didn't realize it's like it's like a it's totally a it's like this electronic music thing with this really heavy bass, but they take these clips of this like very masculine voice saying like discover who you truly are. Then there's this like whoa, like whoa, and like I started to laugh now because I've noticed that a lot of it is taken from the readings from Conversations with God from the Audible. It's the same guy,
Oh,
and they've inserted it into the song. So
that's
I'll have
cool.
to share it
Yeah, that would
and
be
find it.
awesome. I wish we could play stuff like that on here, but I'm sure you wouldn't like that. So
Yeah,
yeah, that'd be
just an interesting. But I just happen to know that particular phrase really well because I hear it a bunch, or I've heard it a bunch.
and from everybody watching, uh, any questions, comments, anything there when you want us to take the conversation, we have planned for I forget now if we actually had planned for 60 minutes or 90 minutes. Like if we, because we get kind of goofy. Well, at least on Power Possibility we do. Like after the
Yeah.
60-minute mark, we start going downhill fast.
Yeah. One could
But
argue we get more fun.
yeah,
We
yeah, we
also
definitely get more
perhaps
fun.
focus a little less on the book.
Yeah, because we don't work out of the book. So if you want to see Hank and Sean unplugged with no book to bring us
Maybe
back to
that's what
some
it
sort
needs
of
to be.
cohesive discussion, catch us next Tuesday for Power Possibilities. That's always a fun thing. One person jumped ship. Maybe that's our sign that people are cooked. I don't know.
It could be. I mean, I think we've had a pretty good conversation tonight, really. A lot of interesting topics, and I think we talked about a good amount of stuff. I mean, we talked about school, and then we talked about um, awareness and how to step into your own truth more and living your own truth.
Yep. And if you're just catching us, because I saw someone just hop on, the way you do it all is through choice, making choices that are in line with the highest version of the grandest vision that you ever held about yourself. And when you can feel who the you that you want to become and step into and align everything that you say, do, and be in the world around that, uh, things just start to flow and start to actualize towards that. So that's really the takeaway from everything that we've talked about tonight is start to be in that divine conversation where you're starting to just choose what literally feels light to the purpose that you're choosing to be in this world or to the thing that you're choosing to become in this world. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like that. I like that
Yeah.
light thing, and I just wanted to point out it's like choosing between two things, and it's like when you make that choice of like, do I want to go to the supermarket today, and you just get this energy or this awareness of just like, no, that sounds absolutely horrible, and you have no explanation for it, and then it's like,
Honor that.
okay, stop yourself for a second. You just got an awareness that it's going to be awful and horrid to go to the supermarket. So what's the chance if you go to the supermarket it's going to be like that? And it's like, yeah, that's probably what it's going to be like. So maybe choose something else that's feeling a little lighter. And I know sometimes we get caught up in the, well, I need to go to the market today because, blah, 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 blah. What's interesting and what can happen is that maybe you choose to go later that day or at a different time than usual, and maybe you find a great sale, or it's just a super easy experience when you go. There's a parking spot right at the front when you go in. There's not lines at the foods you need to go grab, and you check out really quick, and it's like a super great experience. I mean, who knows, that's what can happen when you kind of start to follow this
Or
awareness that you have. And I
or
see
what
Hank
might you be
here.
avoiding?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are you avoiding? So
Like,
just to
well, think
share.
about 9/11. How many people are normally in that building, and how many fewer people were in that for a wide array of random circumstances? Cars not starting, keys not being able to be found, people just having a feeling I'm calling off today. It was far less populated than normal. So what if your intuition did not go to something, you're avoiding something, not necessarily to that scope, but honor your knowings when you get them,
Hmm.
and and be like, okay, well, what if that's not light, what else might be? Is there a different market I could go to? Is there something else that I could try? And it's not like you can't like go out and do something, but start to ask the questions and see, well, this
Yeah.
isn't what is.
Yeah. And it's sort of the,
Yeah.
are you willing, if you're in that moment or you're in the rush of life where you're like, I need to go to the market now and this is the way it is, are you willing to choose or step into a possibility that maybe you don't have to go right now and follow that awareness that it's going to be crazy? And how much do you really like living your life in crazy world?
I
Where
love
it's
living my life in
always
crazy world.
not your crazy world, but the boom, 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 boom. It's always hectic. It's
Oh,
always crazy. It's always, how
so
much
the
do
non-shaman style
you,
crazy
yeah,
world.
not the cool shaman stuff, but how much do you really enjoy that hectic, always on the go lifestyle? And not that it needs to go away, all the things that you do, but what if there was a different possibility for getting those things done that was simpler? And what if that started with just following your intuition and your knowing of, maybe I'll do it this way today. What would that create? So just an invitation, just an idea.
Speaking
Choose
of
it if you'd like.
invitations,
No
we
judgments if
invite
you don't.
And if you don't choose, that's cool too. But speaking of invitations, we invite you to choose us again next week on Tuesday. We're going to have Power of Possibilities, which is always fun. Pretty much every Tuesday, unless there's a fifth Tuesday. Fifth Tuesdays, I think we'll play hooky if there's a
The
fifth
Rogue
Tuesday, 'cause
Fifth Tuesday.
that's what we did last time. We were like, oh yeah, we're just gonna
Hank's like, there's a fifth
chill out.
Tuesday, and I'm like, there is not 5 Tuesdays in a month. There's only 4, and then it's like, no, there's actually 5.
So, so the second Tuesday is Power of Possibility, and the third and the fourth Tuesday we're going to continue our Conversations with God Book 4 discussion group. So we've already read chapters 1 through 10, and the next one we're going to go through chapters 11 through 15. So if you
That's
want to
correct.
grab the book and catch yourself up, we can always go back and rehash stuff from the original 10 chapters, but you can, if you want to catch up and get through chapter 15, we'd love to have you either in the discussion through chat, or we can bring you on screen with us and we can have a more dynamic conversation as long as you promise to behave.
Yeah. Come and play with us.
Yeah, it'll be fun. Cool. Anything you have going on? I know you just had a bars class. Is it too late for people to choose your pop, or is that
yeah, if anyone is interested in doing a virtual bars class, I suppose the official sign up to do it, and I get, some like affiliate type money for doing it. That deadline has passed. However, I perceive you could still choose to come to the class, and I'm happy to host you. We'll be live streaming Brendan Watt, who is a worldwide Access Consciousness certified facilitator. He's a lot of fun. So he'll be streaming the class over Zoom, and then as a bars facilitator, I will be in the room to do, because we have some on the table type stuff where you actually have to do the bars processes, and touch people's heads and stuff. But I will be hosting, and that is on Thursday, this Thursday, July 9th. So if you're interested in that, the easiest way to get in touch is probably to Hank, your stuff. Contacting you is probably a bit easier, right? Or
sure.
Maybe not. Well, you can reach out to me.
No. Well, Sean does have, if you go to hhh.life,
there you go.
You can go. Yeah, so if you go to hhh.life, it is a really easy website to remember. It stands for Holistic Health and Healing. So hhh.life, you'll click Services and then Our Team.
And find me.
And it's going to bring you to a page where it has Sean Phillips. So his profile picture is him getting his bars run. And since I'm on the page, I will just put it in the comments, so you can just click right over and you can have that. And if you're not on a place where you have comments, then I'm going to add it as a banner, and I'll put it on the screen so you can pause the screen and you can type that in. That's the direct link, but you could also just go to hhh.life and then navigate to the same link.
Yeah,
so
thanks, Hank.
hhh.life is a little easier
and
to
for
remember.
Class on Thursday, it'll be super fun. Lots of change, total possibilities, and we'll have cookies and cakes and
I was
snacks.
about to say, I know there'll be snacks, yeah.
And all kinds of munchies, and it'll be really fun. And you get to hang out with me all day while we're doing Access bars, and I'm a total loopy fun guy.
I gotta say, I was at Sean had a bars class just like, was it last week already, or was it a week before?
Yeah.
And I'm there at the beginning, and he had like Access bar books for everybody, of course, and he had like a plain page, but then he also had a page that he designed like all these cool little doodles and fun, like it almost looked like a little confetti party going on. And it was just like this really light, fun energy, and just like a little kid that showing his parents like an art project. He's like, but if you don't like my doodles, like there's fans and you can make your own. It was so great, so much fun, and people like I only saw the beginning and the end of class, and get that for synchronicity. I'm there at the beginning, and he accidentally locked everybody out of the class, so people couldn't get
Oh,
in. So I happened to get
thank
there
God you were
as
there,
people.
Hank.
I get there as people are there, and I'm unlocking the door, and then I forgot something and had to go back to the center. And as I walk in to grab like my laptop or whatever it was like in the moment that they were wanting to take a class picture. So I'm there for the picture, and then I'm gone. But it was like perfect tank timing, in and out, like
Yeah,
a shot
you're
from a
totally
ninja.
on point. So yeah, everyone's invited. Again, that's Thursday, July 9th. Get in touch with me, hhh.life. And then, obviously you're all invited to Power Possibilities next week. And Hank, Mr. Hank Setala, I
Well, look at
got it.
that.
Hank Setala. Hank, you have a Access Bars training class coming up this weekend, correct?
Possibly.
Possibly. You're not sure.
Well,
You may
I
have
have it
other
on the
events.
schedule. Well, the thing is with the recent, I'm looking very closely at all the things that are just coming out in Ohio about stuff. So I'm gonna just see if it still feels like. But I do have it on the schedule. But all the people who had signed up for it, they'll have to change it to like when I teach it in September. So it's like, well, maybe it's late that I'm gonna just have
Cool.
my September class. So we'll see.
So
But I will be having an announcement of a Reiki class coming up. I have someone who wants a Reiki art and master class, so I'm going to be putting that on my schedule. And if you've ever trained with Reiki, I do it a little uniquely where I do the traditional attunement, but then I also do it in a style where we go out to nature, find a natural hotspot where there's a connection to the upper world. We call it a waka in shamanism, and I do a different type of attunement there. So you get the traditional training, and then you get one with a little bit of a shamanic spin, if you will, which is fine because if Reiki was discovered in Peru, it would have been called either Sami or Kanchai, which it's all just a matter of point of view, perspective. That's why we have different religions, right? So where that information came through, it was through the lenses that made it be called Reiki. If it came through, if someone was paying attention and had that same awareness come through, like Dr. Uzui, and it was in Peru, it'd be Kanchai. So I've kind of mixed a little bit of trainings with it, but it's going to be a lot of fun. So if you're interested, go to my website. And then other streams, we have Midnight Meanderings tonight with my brother Brian in Hawaii, which is always fun. And he has this
shamanic brother.
Shamanic brother. Yeah, my Wicked Nuna Wakuchai, my sacred soul brother. But it will be on technically tomorrow, but midnight tonight, midnight tomorrow morning, whichever way you want to look at it. And is that it? There's one more stream. Oh, tomorrow at 11, there is a group healing session, and you can go to stircrazyshamans.com. That's the stream that I do with Casey, and we're going to be at the center, and we're going to basically do a live stream and just do a group healing session. So if you want to participate in that, that will be at 11 tomorrow. It's free, but if you register online, we will call your name into the ceremony a little bit more dynamically than if you just show up on the stream and we don't have your name. So we'll call the energy in, so you might get a little bit more of a potent experience that way. That's all I got.
Sounds fun.
It's going to be lots of fun. Yeah.
It's gonna be totally wicked.
Totally Wicked, which is a great musical, by the way. Wicked, if you have to see it.
Yeah. That line is from The Incredibles.
Well,
That was totally wicked.
I haven't seen The Incredibles.
Oh man. Hey, do yourself a solid and check out The Incredibles. You got two young boys. Just be like, hey kids, we're watching Incredibles tonight. It's on Disney Plus, and I know
They've
you got
seen
that.
I haven't. I haven't even finished all the Mandalorian episodes. I'm like behind the times.
Call the kids in and be like, we're watching The Incredibles right now. It's worth it. It's really good.
We'll see. We'll see.
Maybe
but
not.
Anyway, maybe not tonight. Maybe on a rainy day. I got lots of stuff to do, so we'll see. I got to express my beingness into the world. I have a little list of things that I want to get accomplished tonight before my midnight stream. So we'll see, though.
Yeah. Very good.
Cool. But, thank you, everyone, for tuning in.
We'll see
thank
you so much.
Next stream on Tuesday next week, and we'll catch you later. Bye.